Welcome to She Says with your host, Stephanie Regalado. She Says guests share stories from their challenges to successes and, most importantly, the journey of womanhood woven alongside the collaboration of sisterhood. From self, love, friends and family, to hot topics, career, and world views, Stephanie and her guests discuss matters with utmost openness and honesty. So let's hear what she says. Here's Stephanie.
Welcome to She Says. I'm Stephanie Regalado, your host. Natalie Johnston is joining us today from, it's MSI Engineers?
Yep.
You are a principal?
I am.
Along with how many other
I have
partners?
3 partners.
3 partners?
Yes.
And you've been a mechanical engineer for about 15 years or so.
I have.
And before we were kicking off, I was asking exactly what do you do in mechanical engineering?
Everybody wants to know because no one knows the answer. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you were saying there's so many different aspects of, or how that can play out. How has it played out in your life?
It is a huge, broad field. But myself, I went into consulting right after school. So consulting is kind of a funny term, but basically we design HVAC systems, plumbing systems for commercial buildings. So all the heating, all the cooling, all the water in schools, commercial buildings, stuff like that. So.
And what attracted you to this career track?
Engineering or consulting?
Engineering.
We'll
dial it back.
Got it. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to go way back. I always loved science and math. I was always good at it and enjoyed it. My dad is a mechanical engineer, so I'll just throw that one in there. But I was going to go into medicine. I was really fascinated by like neuroscience and all that. So I started off in medicine. I did running start, and I was really bad at chemistry, like terrible. And I was like, I can't be a doctor if I can't do chemistry. But it turns out I'm really good at like physical science and physics and calculus. So it was really just kind of an aptitude. And then when I was still in high school, and I remember, I feel like this was the turning point in my life. I was building this stupid gingerbread house, and I stayed up all night building this house, and it was like huge, and I had structure and lights, and my dad came in the middle of the night, and he goes, you know, honey, you should probably be an engineer. And I was like, I think you're right.
What was the purpose of the gingerbread house?
I think I was just bored, and it was like a creative outlet, and it was Christmas time, and I know it's stupid, but I still build them because it's like a good association of like my whole life like kind of teetered on that gingerbread house. So
I love that.
It's kind of silly, but
no, that's perfect.
And then I just started in engineering school, and I just kept going that direction. And
well, and you said when we were chatting earlier that there were some things that happened in life that just were chance. That led you this way, but then there are also
some other factors. And I think now that I've been in this for a while, sometimes I feel like I just woke up here, but then I realize I didn't, and I think about like, oh well, how did I end up here? How was I, end up a principal in this firm? And I feel very lucky, right? And I do think some things are chance. It was my parents. I was born into a family where my parents were very encouraging. They really helped me. They helped me get to college. They helped me get through college. They never, ever discouraged any interest. It wasn't like, oh, gosh, that might be hard, honey. Maybe you shouldn't do that. There was never any of that. So I feel lucky to have the parents I have. Like, I feel like that no one has control over that, right?
Yeah.
But then, I also feel like I've had certain points in my life where I've had really good mentors, people that have had faith in me and, just really encouraged me and maybe gave me chances that not everyone did. So I feel like those are kind of the luck pieces, and some people get that, some people don't. But then, I think the things that, when I look back and I'm like, well, what am I going to do for my kids? Like what happened to me that I want to recreate? And I think a lot of it is my parents and the way that they never discouraged anything. And both my parents work, and they worked the whole time I was growing up. So I always thought that I would work, and my mom was a nurse, and so it's just like, I'm going to do that when I grow up. I'm going to go to college, and nothing's off limits. And so I think that was really important. There were a lot of times, just both even before I got to college and through college, that were really intimidating, just as far as being a woman. I remember the first day that I realized I was the only girl in my class. I was like, what where are the rest of the girls?
Right.
Like, why am I the only one? And and it was a point of like, is this going to be a problem? And I was like, well, it can't be a problem, so I'm just going to soldier on. And
yeah, how did the guys handle that?
You know, they were all awesome. I mean, I feel like my classmates just didn't really think anything of it.
Right.
I ended up marrying one of them, so maybe that helped. I don't know. I did have some teachers that I felt were maybe not so encouraging. That really looked at me like, oh, she's not going to make it.
Really.
And you know, I think back, and I think if I had been intimidated by these various places, I wouldn't have ended up where I am. So I feel like that's a big factor.
Well, and it's amazing, the tiniest nuance in your life moments, if you trace it back, sometimes you can't even see where you went a different direction because of maybe something someone said, or even a look, or that sense of doubt.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, my senior year, I was in a physics class. It was a female teacher. She was just so brilliant and so amazing. And there weren't very many girls in the class. A lot of my friends were taking this. It was not really home ec-ish kind of class, but it was something like that. It involved childcare.
Oh,
and
flower baby.
Yes, yeah. They all had the flower sack babies and etc. And my friends were like, "What are you doing? Come on, you're not even interested in that long term. Why would you take a physics class?" So I went to my teacher and asked her, or told her I was going to drop out and switch to the flower sack baby class. And she said, "No, you're not."
Yeah.
I was like, "Why?" "Well, but that's what I want to do." And she goes, "Why do you want to do that?" I'm like, "Well, you know, I don't really have it's not rising up in me, the passion for physics. It's intriguing, definitely, and I feel it stretches me, but all my friends are taking this flower sack baby class." And she's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not letting you out of this class. There's no way." She said, "You're too smart to be in a flower sack baby class when you could be in physics." And of course, I did really well in the class. And it's funny because I don't know what it was, but throughout my life, I thought I was stupid in math. And it's not just like math is challenging. No, it's like, I'm dumb. There's a glitch in me. There's something wrong.
Yeah, like I can't do it.
I can't do it. So, but I remember that so well in my mind, where she said, "You are too smart and too brilliant to be, to have signed up for physics and then wanting to pull out when you were doing well in the first couple of weeks of the class and keeping all the boys in line."
Right.
And then when I went to college, I had one of my math instructors asked me if I would consider changing my career to be a mathematician, because he said just the way my brain worked. And I took I can't even remember what it was, where you're investigating more of the behinds, the history of mathematics. And so I would write papers about mathematics. He's like, "You really get it." I'm like, "You mean I get math?"
So why do you think you felt stupid in math? Like, where do you think that came from?
Well, I think sometimes it's like, even with writing, some people don't feel they're a good writer. It's just that you've stopped short enough. You've stopped before you've reached success with it. Because for me, I'm not necessarily, granted, I have a lot of practice now, so people can say they feel as though I'm a good writer, they like my style. But it's still hard. I still have to push to the finish line a publishable piece every single time. Where other people are like, "Yeah, no, I can't." So I think it's that inclination that it's hard, and then the giving up on yourself. But I love, because you're an advocate for girls in sciences. And really pushing them forward to explore that. How do you do that? What do you?
Well, I mean, I feel, just based on my own experience, which is of course limited, but I feel like it starts so young, you know? Like I feel like, and I feel like I see it even in my own children. I have 2 girls and a boy, and I feel like already there's, like, my girls feel like they're not as good at math as my son, you know?
Really?
So my husband and I really focus on, like, making sure they don't stick with that feeling, you know, like, no, you are good at math, like maybe you struggle more to learn it, but you have just as much ability, you know. So I feel like that's a big part of it, and I think encouraging all the way along, all the way through. And you know, I think we're seeing, like in medicine, for example, there are a lot more women. I think maybe even more women than men graduating from medical school, and so I look at that a lot, because I'm like, boy, that has not happened to engineering.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You know, I look back at the classes coming out of Gonzaga now, and percentage-wise, there are not very many more women than when I went through, which is discouraging to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that crux is, but I feel like it's about encouragement and support and just, you know, letting them know it's possible.
Well, and they say research goes, like toddler through those early years, boys and girls are pretty, like in their minds, equal.
Yeah.
And what they tackle and can accomplish things just as well as the other gender.
Yeah.
But it's through, I don't know if it's like first, second, third grade when they've noticed girls start withdrawing from science and math and not rising up in it.
Yeah. And it's a curious thing. And I mean, I don't think anyone's doing it on purpose, you know. I don't think it, but something's happening. And I feel like my poor girls, maybe they might just hate math and science because I don't want to push them too hard. But they're hugely creative, and so I think you know, I think women they see things differently and their interests are different, even though math and science, you know, we're all good at that. So I think, you know, just finding ways that they can explore math and science that are maybe more to their liking, or just you know, more along the lines of the things they're interested in, which I do see more of that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's super important to keep all things a possibility at all times, because just looking back on my own life, how many shifts I've made, I never saw myself being an editor of a magazine or a writer or anything in my life. So if I hadn't pushed through writing and that sort of thing, I would never have gotten to where I am now. But my grandbaby, who's almost 3, I've always told her since she was a baby, she's a mighty girl and she's brave and she's strong. And my son one time said, should she be doing that? Because she was climbing up on something. And I said, well, why you question it? And he was feeling because she was a little girl, it wasn't safe. I'm like, she can do anything she wants to do. And if she wants to test her body and her limits in a safe environment, because I'm right here.
Yeah, same for her, right?
Yeah.
And I think you had a good point too, is just teaching them not to give up, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's good for all kids, not just girls, of course, you know. But I think it's easy to give up when it gets hard. And I think if you look around and you see all your friends that are girls, maybe like your science class, like, oh, well, it's hard, and gosh, they're having a lot of fun over there, like, you know. But just having that grit and that, in my case, probably just stubbornness to just stick it out and like, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And I feel like I do that with my kids a lot. But yeah, I think, I don't know. And I think there's a lot too. I just feel like I set an example by going to work every day and showing my girls that, hey, mommy goes to work, and, you know, and I go to work and I do science, and I work with men, and that's all okay, and I don't care, and I enjoy my job, and, you know,
well, and that's so important too to emulate, because I hear a lot of people say, I have to go to work now. But if you tell your children, I get to go to work, or you like empower the whole system, that it's something that it's an honor and a privilege to be able to have something that you get to go to.
It is, And then, you know, I think, you know, so I had kids and I had triplets, right? And so that was like a huge thing. And I think probably everyone in my life said, she'll never go back to work. Like, how could you go back to work? Which is a really good question. And I realized in my mind, like, of course I'm going back to work. Like, why would I not go back to work? My husband's still at work, like, you know, and my husband and I, we are very 50-50, you know. It's not like I'm responsible for the child care. It's like we work together. And I feel like setting that example for the kids makes my daughters look at that and say, of course it's doable. You know, just, you know, they love dolls and babies, and, you know, they want to grow up and get married and have kids, and I want them to know that they can do that and go into the sciences. You don't have to give that up. You don't have to choose. Not that it's easy, but so I feel like even with my husband setting an example, like it's a group effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more about that and dig into it. We have to take a quick break. So we are going to hear a word from our fabulous sponsors and be right back.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeese Wheeler Attorneys. McNeese Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeese Wheeler Attorneys.
I'm Nikki Butler, and I'm a regional manager for STCU. My lunch buddy is Nicole. I'm Brandy Schloss. I'm a regional manager at STCU. My lunch buddy is Angelina. She's grown up with me. I've grown up with her. To see her graduate will be a lot of fun.
Brandy and I have been lunch buddies since the girls were in 2nd grade. It's great that STCU provides me with the opportunity to be part of Reach for the Future. We are committed to the children. We're committed to our community. I'm Nikki.
I'm Brandy.
And STCU is here for good.
Hi, I'm Larry Myers, owner of River Ridge Hardware. Welcome to our garden center here on the corner of Garland and Driscoll. We have fresh plants that come in weekly from all of our local growers. We can make your garden look like our garden. Here at River Ridge, we've been here 30 years. We're your full-service neighborhood hardware store. This is our sprinkler aisle where my knowledgeable staff will help you put together your sprinkler system so it will make your yard lush green for the spring and summer. This is River Ridge Hardware's rental center where we provide a multitude of equipment for rent for the do-it-yourselfer. Next time you're working on your home or yard this spring and summer, stop by, say hi, and we'll help you get the project done.
Welcome back to She Says. We are going to do this again. We just continued the show, so
yeah,
we'll carry on. I have Natalie Johnston with me from MSI Engineers. You're a principal there, a mechanical engineer, and you had triplets 7 years ago.
Yep.
Surprise!
Yeah, a little shocking. It was not part of the plan.
2 girls and a boy.
Yep.
And that's so cool. I think that you get to see them on a level, because sometimes my kids weren't born at different ages, and I have a boy and girls. So I'm like, well, what was he doing then, or she doing then at that time? But you get to see it.
I do. I call them my science experiments, in the best possible way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get to see how their personalities rise up, and
at all at the same time.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. So you were working before you.
I was.
Had babies.
Yeah, I was not a principal, but I was working at the same company when I got pregnant with the triplets. It was shocking to everybody, right? I think that's just the way that goes. And it was a really rocky pregnancy, as many triplet pregnancies are. And I think from the get-go, MSI where I worked, at that time there were 2 male partners, and they were so encouraging. I have them to thank entirely for that. Like they just helped me with everything I needed. They let me work as long as I needed. They let me take as much time off as I needed. They were just supportive in general. They knew it was hard. And it's a small firm, so it is a little bit like a family, and it really felt that way all the way through. And I'm sure they, like everyone, thought I wouldn't come back, which is perfectly reasonable thought, except not in my mind, I guess. I was the only person.
I was going to say, were there any times ever you thought you wouldn't go?
No.
I mean, that was your life built up. It was all to get you to there.
It was really interesting, a couple years later to talk to people and hear them say, I never thought you'd go back to work. And I just remember being so shocked, because in my mind, I was like, that just never was in my mind. I loved what I did. I worked really hard, to get my degree and to work, and and so I stayed home for 5 months with the babies, and then I came back very part-time. And again, my employer was just so encouraging, and they're like, oh, work part-time, work from home some, however long it takes to get back. And it was the best transition, and I think it helped. I mean, I got to the point where I was like, no, I'm ready to work full time. I want to be in the office full time. I got my childcare all worked out, and it takes a long time, right? It was so shocking, but I think I just realized how having that support from your employer is such a huge part of helping women through that transition. And it's hard, even with one, right? 1 or 2 or 3 or 10. It's a tough transition, and without that support, it would be harder to come back, It
was pretty shocking for my art director had a little baby girl a couple of months ago, and we had a temporary team member. He didn't last long. Maybe this is part of her life, but anyway, he went into her office and really had no relationship with her, and said that she would be who was going to replace her when she left, because he assumed she's going to be a stay-at-home mom after she had the baby. And she's like, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not going to be a stay-at-home mom? She's like, well, no, this is my career. This is a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
I love doing this work. And she worked it out very creatively as well, where she never missed a beat. She worked, no one stepped in her position. We put out,
that's amazing.
Continued putting out magazines together.
Yeah.
And, but really when you have that atmosphere where you value your team members and their contributions, you work to find solutions.
Yeah, you do.
And be supportive.
You do. And I feel like, you know, again, I'm still at the same firm, and we do that. It's not just for women having children, you know, it's for, you know, aging parents and employees that have to deal with that or health problems or all that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just being able to support people through that and be flexible. And
when there's not such a division between life, your whole life, and then your profession, then it is so much easier to. Plus, you have happier.
Yeah, everybody's happier that way, right?
And everyone feels a little more secure in the position, and like it's going to last and it's going to work out. And
exactly.
Did you have did you feel like you received any like negative feedback for choosing
to come to work?
Choosing
or, like,
to work full time after babies?
Oh, yes. Not from my work at all, no, but, you know, from other areas in my life, definitely. I think people, you know, there are people that still, and I mean, it's okay, you know, I'm not particular about everybody needs to go back to work. I don't feel that way. But, and, you know, I feel like our world is still very geared for women to either stay home or work part-time. You know, it is hard to work full-time, and as you probably know, raise kids. So, there are certain aspects where I feel like this just is not set up for working parents.
Right.
Yeah, summer, for example.
Well, and you were talking about in the corporate world how there's this line that there's a lot of women in positions kind of below the line, but in the upper management and higher levels.
Yeah, it's still mostly men, right? So even in the lower, you know, coming out of college, there are just as many women as men and entering the workforce. But there's this distinct point where, you know, in management where there's a line, and there aren't any more women above that line, or very few. And I don't know the answer, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with that support. You know, women want everyone gets married and wants to have children, right? And it's just like the women take the hit for that every time, and there's this expectation that women will take the hit for that, and even when they don't, I think companies are still geared to expect them to, right? She'll never come back to work, or she's just going to be a mom now, you know. It's almost like there's that expectation, and so women aren't given as many chances, and when they do come back, it's like, oh, how could they possibly do as much as, you know, my male employee? And you know, and I think that's just one thing where I didn't have that situation when I came back to work. I wasn't judged on that basis as much. But I think many women are.
Well, and it's, I think if we can continue supporting one another to actually do the things we really, truly, wholeheartedly want to do. And they talk about you're the author of your own story, etc. But so often people are worried about what others may think or the expectations around them, instead of truly digging in and finding their own path.
It's kind of that cliche of follow your heart, but it is very true.
And when we're talking about having young boys and girls view a full spectrum of possibility and potential in their lives, women can continue feeling that way and not have to choose. And that motherhood isn't a choice that you make over other things.
I feel like that's the big one, you know. And
it can be woven all together.
I feel like a big part of society is still trying to force us to choose, but it's not necessary, you know. But it's my take.
Well, and many years ago, I had a good friend who worked soon after her babies were born full time and very high levels within the school district, and then we had another mom in the same school program that our kids were all in, and she said she lived her whole life seeing herself have a minivan and having babies and being a mom. And the thing is, any story is okay if that's the story you want and you choose, and any story is beautiful. I was at an event on Monday night, and we were talking about women working and managing children, and this gal was saying that she had a neighbor who was a stay-at-home mom, and she was a working mom. And one day something happened where she was a little late for work, and the stay-at-home mom came over, and she's like, I just don't know how you do it. And she goes, well, how I do what? She goes, how you do it. And she goes, what's it? Well, working and everything. And she said, well, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, we're all just trying to do the best we can. And it's a challenge no matter what.
It is.
It's not an
So
easy
true.
ride, whether you choose to stay home or you choose to weave in work in some way, or you choose to go back into your career full time.
Yeah.
None of it's easy.
No, there isn't an easy path. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. And I probably should just give a little shout out to my parents too, because they are a huge help to me. And I think, that whole aspect of it takes a village, right?
Totally.
And it isn't just me, and it's not just me and my husband. My parents help out a lot, and we have wonderful, the kids go to a great school, and we have good childcare, and it takes this whole thing to make it work, There's a really interesting article in NPR here recently, and it went way back into like caveman days, and it said, what did society look like then?
Yeah.
Well, there were not like stay-at-home cave moms, right? That wasn't like, that's
well,
not how
even
that's
homesteaders,
yeah, that wasn't how it worked.
Right.
Both the moms and the dads had to work because you're young and you're able, and grandparents often, cave grandmas and cave grandpas watch the children, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we all evolved. And I feel like, I almost feel like we've gotten a little away from that with this expectation that like moms must stay home with their children and moms are solely responsible. And I think about that a lot. And
I definitely couldn't have done it without my mom being in the same area. And my daughter works too, and so I work around, have a flexible schedule, so I can
help out,
watch her, watch my darling granddaughter. And it really does take a village, and more of us, I think, need to be open to that and lean into it.
I think so too,
because you can't do it all on your own anyway. And I think as soon as we can start letting go of those expectations, facades,
take a little pressure off, right?
Totally take pressure off. Well, if you could shake the snow globe of your life and have pieces settle differently than they are now, is there anything you would do differently?
Oh boy, that's a really tough question. I don't know that I could. I feel so lucky. I do. I feel really lucky. I'm married to the perfect person, and I have 3 beautiful children. My husband's mom didn't live to see the kids. I would love for that snowflake to fall differently. I'd give just about anything for that one to go different. But that's what it is. Sometimes I think maybe my husband and I should have moved away to like a different city for a while before we had the kids. We never did that, but
just to get that under your wings.
I feel like maybe we should have done that. That's what everybody does, but we didn't. We both graduated from Gonzaga, and we stayed in Spokane, and we've been here ever since. So. But I also I can't say I truly regret that decision either.
Yeah. So. Well, and there's so much opportunity still to travel and get out there and experience.
Yes, exactly.
And Spokane works and is trying to work pretty hard to retain talent.
I know.
And so thank you for staying.
Yeah, I love Spokane. We went to, we were sitting out at Clinkerdaggers just watching the river yesterday, and it is such a beautiful city. Yeah. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you so much for being on She Says today.
It was a pleasure.
And I look forward to continue watching you be an advocate for women and girls and really leading the lives they want and pushing through the hard stuff. I think that's a really good takeaway from this, whether it's writing or math or science or whatever it is.
You're up against.
Push. And my last guest last week, Carmen, said that people don't like discomfort.
Right.
So they try to avoid
conflict.
uncomfortable things or conflicts. They avoid that. And that's the same with challenge or something that's hard. We try to avoid that and go. But it just takes just a little bit more dedication and a little more belief in yourself and push through.
Yep.
And why not test it out?
Right. Yeah.
See what you got.
I don't think we have as much to lose as we think.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Truly. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and thank you, Natalie, for being here.
Of course.
We'll see you next week.
She Says is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content.